So when I record it, I get a link back from Zoom, and then I send it to Leah, and she pushes it up to YouTube. And then she sends me the link, and then all the people who want the link, I send out the links. And also, we have like a YouTube. I don't know if it's a channel, but where we all of our. I'm going to log on and show you. You go to YouTube. I'm going to share screen now. And that's YouTube. And then you put in Macomb, Solel Lakeside. Obviously, I've been here once.
Yeah.
And then we see, like, there's Sunday morning. And there was our short story a couple weeks ago. So, yeah. And there, a choir. I don't think there's rhyme and reason to it. Leia's here now. Perhaps she could. We're talking about how do you get a link from YouTube, Leah?
How do you get a link from YouTube for what?
For like, if people were from our Macomb Solel Lakeside, like how do
you can go to our YouTube channel, and I'll put the link to that in the chat. And then once you're there, you can scroll through and see our different videos from our events and recorded services and the like.
That's what I was. That's what I was showing people. Okay. So I am recording this. So you'll get the link when I get the link. And then Leia's the one who makes the magic and pushes it up. So I thought this is a good opportunity. Hi, Izzy. She's connecting. I'll wait till she connects. I'll call on you because it's hard to see who's making eye contact with who. And Margaret and I will go last. But just tell us your name and what books you're reading. Izzy, so good to see you. Izzy's had a long time of it. You're muted, but you can unmute. And
it's so good to see you. Oh my God, it's wonderful. I'm on my iPhone because my iPad is not charged.
Okay.
I just realized. So I had to, by hook or by crook, I'm here.
You are here. Okay. So I'm just gonna call your name, and then you can tell me, what books you're reading, and then Margaret and I'll, bring up the end and tell you what's in our library. And I cannot say this enough. Margaret Burka has the best books in our library. She has everything current, and you can always find something fantastic there. So that's my commercial. Brenda, you can just, what books are you reading and anything else you want to tell us?
Sure. I just finished reading a book called Long Bright River by Liz Moore. And I know that some people love detective stories. And this is a part detective story and part psychological family story. And I thought it was a pretty quick read. And I liked it. I thought it was good. And I have also read recently a book called Anxious People, which is by the same author as A Man Called Ove. So if you like,
I like that.
If you like The Man Called Ove, you might. The book is loaded with quirky people. There isn't. You have to like quirkiness, or else you may not like this book. But it is definitely unique.
Okay.
So there's more, but I'd like to hear what some of the rest.
Okay. Great. All right, Susan.
Okay, so right now I'm in the middle of a book called Euphoria by Lily King. And it is about archaeologists in New Guinea. And it's very interesting. And it's got me absorbed. And I finished just recently a book that I guess I should have read a couple of years ago, but I didn't, called Pachinko.
Oh, I loved it.
That was great.
Loved it.
I
Loved it.
loved that
Loved it.
book. I thought it was about Koreans in Japan, and I thought it was really good.
Mhm.
And I read the book by Barack Obama that I thought could get at some points a little tedious, but I thought it was really interesting to hear things from his perspective. And of course, most people, I think, have read Michelle Obama's book, Becoming. I thought was really wonderful. I guess that's about it for what I've been doing recently.
Okay. I am just about to finish Pachinko, fabulous book.
Isn't it?
And I said to my husband, I didn't realize the Japanese were so prejudicial against the Koreans.
No.
And he said, how could you not know that? I said, I didn't know that, okay? I'm reading the book, now I know.
I didn't know either.
Yeah.
The Japanese, they
And the
treated
Chinese. The Japanese didn't
And-
like anyone who wasn't Japanese.
Correct, yeah. Mhm.
Okay, Elaine, you're up next.
All right, I am right now reading a book called The Midnight Library.
Oh, I read that.
And,
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a slow starter for me, but I just got to the part where she's in the Midnight Library for the first time, so I think it's going to pick up now.
Yeah.
Another book that I recently read that I liked a lot was called These Tangled Vines by Julianne McLean. And that might have been one I got on the Amazon First Reads.
Oh,
And I just loved it. I loved it. I loved it. It had beautiful prose, wonderful descriptions. I liked the setting. It's in Tuscany, and you know, parts of it were like maybe a little predictable, but it was still a really good armchair travel book. And then from the books we've been reading in our book group, I just also finished The Golem and the Jinnai, which I loved. It was so fun. And I have the second book on hold. So waiting
I
for
just got the second one.
my name to come up to the top of the list.
So
Yeah.
well, the second book is called The Palace,
Something
Hidden
like that.
Palace.
The Hidden Palace. And
Yeah.
Margaret, have you started it?
I have not started it. I just got it, so.
Yeah.
I am so looking forward to reading it.
My girlfriend who runs a book group said that it's a full stop sequel. And she's
Uh-huh.
not sure if she can do it in a book group with people who haven't read the first one,
Right.
which is The Golem and the Jinn. So
That's-
I can't wait to hear your review, Margaret. Okay,
Okay.
going around the circle, Shar.
I just read Eli's Promise by Ronald Balsam. Excellent book. He also wrote Once We Were Brothers.
Oh, I like that.
Oh,
Oh, I
yeah.
love
I
that
read-
book.
I read Laura's book,
That
yeah.
was a great book.
And I think he lives in Chicago.
He
Yes, he
does,
does.
yes.
Yes.
Eli Thomas.
Eli's Promise by Ronald Balsam.
Balsam.
Here it is.
It was a great book.
I'm on Zoom. I'll
Oh,
call
I
you.
read that. I did read that also.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, those are very good suggestions. Marcia Rosenbaum from Highland Park.
Hi there. Thank you. I've read a couple books that just drew me. One was called Rising Out of Hatred. And this is a man who was raised by the Ku Klux Klan. His father was one of the Grand Wizards and everything. And he never met anybody that wasn't until he went away to college. And his friends, it's a fascinating story that is just mesmerizing, and how he changed and to his whole, it's just worthwhile reading. And I just, it was very scary. He was here last year speaking at one of big events. I can't remember which one, but he goes around speaking about his experiences, and he doesn't get paid. He just does it. But Derek Black is his name. And the other book that I really, really liked, I liked a lot of them, but another interesting one is called Hidden Valley Road.
Oh, yes,
about
I
a
read that.
family of 10. Did we read that from? No, we didn't, but a family of 10 children, 6 of whom were schizophrenic. And it's definitely a nonfiction, but it's scary and worthwhile.
That was fascinating. I read that one too.
Yeah, that's and so those are the two that I have enjoyed
Okay.
and been mesmerized by.
Marcia, those are hard reads.
I know.
No light reading for Marcia.
Well,
That-
no, the other one is the Vanishing Half about
Oh,
twin sisters.
Yeah.
And
Very
That's a good one.
and that was also interesting because they were black, but they were light black, and how one lived her life pretending she was white, and that was also good. You're right. The one about the schizophrenic family, I had to read for a while and then go out for a walk and then come
Yeah.
back in. It was,
yeah. That's
That was something. Yeah.
yeah, it was very scary.
It was very
But
disturbing.
I'm glad I read it. So
Britt,
Yeah, that was interesting.
Britt Bennett, who wrote The Vanishing Half, also wrote The Mothers. And that is a great, if you liked her writing, I read both of them this year, and I liked both of them quite a bit. Okay,
good.
going around the circle, Izzy.
Okay, so I belong to the Glencoe book group. So I've read a lot of them through them. So I just finished reading Deacon King Kong.
How that is on everyone's to read list. Did you
I
like
have to tell you, it was fabulous. I loved it. It was written in the vernacular of the Southern Black man. And I loved it. I thought it was I got into it, and it really had a plot, and it was just, I loved it. And I also wrote the one he wrote that beforehand, which was The Good Lord Bird, which was about James Brown in the Civil War. Really gave you a very interesting look. He wasn't black, but it gave you a really interesting, it's wonderful reads, both of them. And then I just finished Hamnet. Which is,
I read that one. That was really good.
Which is the same, really, Hamlet, but it's Hamnet, interchangeable with Hamlet in Old English. And it's a made up story of why they thought that William Shakespeare would write the novel Hamlet.
And it was about his wife. So much of it was about
mostly about his wife. It was just a fabulous. I thought it was a fabulous novel. So I just finished both of those. Hamnet. Hamnet, Deacon King Kong, and then I just wrote down books that I just remembered that I've read. All the Lights You Cannot See.
Yeah, that's a
wonderful.
Oh, that was a wonderful book.
A few years ago, great.
Right, Marriage of Opposites. This was a while ago. Pachinko, I wrote down. Finding Sylvie Lee was excellent.
Marriage of Opposites.
Yeah,
She's in jail and she visits him all the time, I think. Is that the one I'm thinking about?
It was by it's the one about Pissarro and his wife.
Yes.
Is that the
one
where she visits him in jail all the time? Maybe that's not the right name.
I don't think so.
It's fascinating because I think, I know who Pissarro was, but they don't let on until you're into the book that it's Pissarro, and there's a Jewish component because, there's refugee Jews from the Inquisition, and it's by Alice Hoffman. I love that book.
Oh, I love her too.
I like her book.
Then, I love this, The Glass Hotel.
I love that one too. The Glass Hotel, yes.
Yeah, it's about.
That's by the author of Station 11. that came out a
Station
few years
11.
ago.
Oh my God, Station 11. That was
yeah.
before the pandemic. If you
Yeah.
saw, if you
Yeah,
read
Station 11 was a pandemic book. Yeah, it
a
was.
pandemic book that you thought, oh
But
my
the
God.
Glass
this could
Hotel is
never
very
happen.
different. But very
The
good.
Glass Hotel is fabulous. I mean, that is just
Yeah.
wonderful.
Good
Hi
book.
there.
Also, for my book club, I read The
Okay,
Weight
I'm
of
gonna
Ink.
go inside.
I beg your pardon?
Go ahead.
The Weight of Ink, which is
Yes, I
about
love that book.
actually it's about my family. It's about the Mendes. He was a scribe, the rabbi in Spain in the 1400s with the Spanish Inquisition going on, and the Jews moved from Portugal to Amsterdam, and there was a woman scribe.
What was the name of that again?
It's called The Weight of
The Weight
Ink.
of Ink by Rachel.
Rachel
Kadish.
Kadish.
Yes, it was a fabulous.
It's a
I loved it.
fabulous book.
It goes back and forth between
Yeah.
contemporary and way back when.
Yeah.
That was fabulous. And the other one that I read for my two more. The Dutch House.
Oh, I love that book.
I
was
like
a
that too.
wonderful,
I was not a fan. But
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay,
I
everybody's
love
got their
other
own-
Ann Patchett books.
Yes.
I
Mhm.
like Ann Patchett. I
I
haven't.
like her writing.
And then the last, there's two more. The Girl in the Window, the woman in the window. She's got claustrophobia. She just looks out the window and she sees what she thinks is a murder across the way, and it's on the bestseller list, I think. The girl in the window, or the woman in the
Kind of like
window.
the girl on the train.
woman.
No, this is the girl in the window.
The
She's
girl
in a
in the
high
window.
rise.
The woman in the window.
Looks out her window all the time, and
Yeah, yeah.
and then the house we grew up in. We did that for the book club too, which was interesting.
Mm.
About 40.
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
Going back to The Weight of Ink, it's long.
It
You know,
is, but it's worth it.
Some of
It's
these
very
books
long.
are, I'll just say it, painfully long. The Weight of Ink, it wasn't painful. There's a few other, what's that? I think it's a Jonathan Safran Foer book.
Everything is illuminated.
No, the other one.
That was fabulous.
That was
Um,
good.
That was fabulous.
Yeah.
The one where he's breaking up with his wife and
I know the one you mean, but I can't remember the title of it now. Here I Am. It's called Here I Am, I think.
that is painfully long.
It was very long, yeah.
Mhm.
But Everything is Illuminated was amazing, yeah.
Yeah, that was a beautiful, amazing book. Okay, thank you, Izzy. I'm going, keeping to going around. Merle, do you want to tell us the books you've read?
Yes, my book club read a book called The Barbizon, The Hotel That Set Woman Free by Paulina Bren last month. And it's a nonfiction book, but would be great summer reading because it's about a hotel that was just for women in New York. And it's the history of feminism going from the flappers to the present day, and how people like Grace Kelly, Liza Minnelli, Sylvia Plath, Joan Didion all lived at this hotel, and explains how their careers began and how they became successful because they could live safely in this hotel without any men. There were no men allowed until like 1980. So it's a fascinating story about feminism. And the other book that I was going to recommend is The Long Petal of the Sea by Isabella Allende.
I read that. Very good.
I thought there was a great book about what happened to the people after the Spanish Civil War who left Spain and then came to live in Chile. And then many had to leave to go to Venezuela. Fascinating
book.
And it's wonderful historical fiction, and you get really engaged with the characters. So those were the two that I wanted to recommend.
Okay. Marcia Rosenbaum, Arizona. You need to unmute.
Thank you. I wanted to give a shout out to Brenda because my book club in Illinois read The Man Called Ove and Anxious People and loved both of those. And Anxious People, and it was poignant, but yet there were very hilarious parts of it, and I enjoyed that book thoroughly. So then that book club in Illinois we read for both book clubs, my Arizona one and the one there, Where the Crawdads Sing, and that was beautiful saga. And then I just finished Into the Jungle, and I have to say, It's
Mhm.
not for squeamish people, and I am super squeamish and I'm having nightmares because this free spirit from Massachusetts, a 19-year-old, for some reason moves to the Colombian jungle and falls in love with someone who's a hunter in the jungle and moves farther into the jungle. And I'm having nightmares about pythons and snakes in a boat and parasites in people's intestines. I'm really sick to my stomach, but I love the book. It was a beautiful tale of jungle life, where I wouldn't last 5 minutes, but it was beautifully written. And this girl's development and everything was just a beautiful story. And then we read, in my book club in Arizona, we read Alias Grace, which is based on a true murder in the 19th century and the beginning of psychiatry. Because I never believed that from the interviewings of Grace that she actually committed the murder. So that was a very interesting discussion. And then
Is that the one, Marcia, by Margaret Atwood?
Margaret Atwood, yeah. And I read other books by her as well. And that's and then the book we just discussed was The Silent Patient, which is a psychological
Man.
thriller, and it's got a lot of forensic psychiatry in it. My daughter is a forensic psychiatrist, but she said that it really wasn't true to forensic psychiatry, and it really wasn't. They were the psychiatrists were crazier than the patients, but it became a page turner because of the mystery behind it. So, but I just found the ending fell a little flat, but it was interesting read also. And then I'm reading now something for some reason I'm on Amazon Prime, and they put me in this free book club, and and they send it to my Kindle, and I get to pick a book so I'm reading Sprinting Through No Man's Land, and that is because I'm a cyclist and a Francophile. I'm really in heaven. I'm just beginning it, but it's World War I, and they're the French and Germans and British that are cyclists. They're forming their 1919 Tour de France. And so it's very interesting from the historical of the war point of view and the cycling history. And I'm glued to the Tour de France every year. So, but anyway, and then there's also a Jewish element because in the beginning, in the preface and in the beginning, they're mentioning the Dreyfus affair. And there was a newspaper, Le Vélo, about cycling, but they supported Dreyfus, and they thought that he was being unfairly indicted and everything. And another newspaper was very anti-Semitic, a cycling paper, and they eventually put the one that was for Dreyfus out of business. So from that point of view, it's interesting as well. And then I thought we were supposed to read it I must have gotten confused, but I also read Florence Adler Swims Forever.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
thought we were supposed to read that one.
That's for the book club in August.
Uh-huh.
That's
Okay,
good.
because I found that totally heartbreaking, but I won't want to spoil.
Yeah.
But it
Right.
was good.
I read that too. That was very good.
All right, good, because the author is going to Zoom with us in August.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about with that book.
About.
And I think one of the things that I had to keep reminding myself is that it was set in 1934.
Right,
And that
right.
things
But
that are
all-
implausible now weren't necessarily implausible in 1934.
1934.
And I think that's key to the book.
Yeah.
But also, it took place, which was a place that we used to go whenever we had a weekend vacation because my dad was in business. We would go to the Jersey Shore to cool off, and chill out. And we loved it. And we'd walk the boardwalks in Atlantic City and everything. So all of that came back to life for me.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that-
me
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
When I was,
So
we would spend like a week every summer, either in Longport or Margate or down there on the shore.
Yeah.
It had a
So
lot
anyway,
of Jewish, it had a lot of
so
Jewish
that's what I've been
content too.
writing, and I'll try to make it in August. That's when I'm going to be helping my my kid with their baby and their big girl in
Oh,
Washington
wow.
DC. But
That's
I'm gonna
great.
I'm gonna try to make it because you said the author is gonna
Yeah.
Rachel.
And that book was very loosely based on a true story in the author's family. So-
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I
Another
read the
interesting
whole
thing.
Right.
background.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So
Merle, did you have a question?
Yes, no, I forgot one book that I was on my list to
Okay.
recommend. It's another Isabella Allende book. It's called The Soul of a Woman. It's a very short book. She wrote it at the age of like 78 about what it was like to be a feminist from the age of 5. It's very inspiring about how to bring the women's movement forward. And she's like the Gloria Steinem of the Southern Hemisphere. And she talks about her 3 marriages. She talks about what it's like to experience, feelings about love and death and sex at her advanced age, and the whole history of feminism that she experienced from age 5 to 78. It's a really good book. It's called
Okay.
The Soul of a
Okay.
Woman.
That sounds
oh, and I
interesting.
have
Yeah.
I'm sorry, one more book to recommend that I read with my Illinois book club called The Lost Friends.
Oh, I read that
And
one.
Read
That was
that,
good.
yeah, and it
Yeah.
takes place during Reconstruction, and you wonder how human beings can do that to other human beings. But it's a beautiful, beautiful story. It's like a patchwork quilt of these travelers who and they try to match people up with people that they lost, like they were separated when they
Yeah.
during the slave trades and that, and it's just a beautifully written book and just a beautiful story. So
I read another book by Lisa Wingate, I think. Is that Before You Were Ours? Did she write
Yeah.
that?
Oh, that was wonderful.
yes.
That was,
Yeah, that was just a
that was very
haunting book.
disturbing. And it was based on a true people.
I know, that's
Yeah.
the worst part about it.
I know.
Yeah. That's an amazing book. Yeah. Sandy, can you hear us? Do you want to share your books or do you want to do it a little bit later?
I'm actually very busy, but I'm listening to everything you guys are
Good.
saying.
All right.
and I'm
All right.
enjoying. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, Margaret, take us home here. What are you reading? What's in our library?
Okay, well, to start with some of the things I've been reading lately. One of them, and it's very timely actually, is called The Code Breaker, CODE. It's by Isaacson. It's a biography of a woman, a scientist called Jennifer Doudna, who this past year in 2020, along with another French woman scientist, won the Nobel Prize. They are involved with something called CRISPR, CRISPR, which is a gene editing technology. So it's a fascinating book in that it goes into the people's lives, not just her and Emmanuel Charpentier, who's the French scientist, but several other scientists into their lives. And also, this is something that, ethically we have to give a lot of thought to now, because most people, if they hear, oh, there's something you can do to reach into people's genes and turn off the thing that gives people muscular dystrophy or something, everybody, oh, that's wonderful. But then it's, well, do we want to use this to increase our children's IQ, make them taller, make them better looking? There's a lot of ethical considerations that come up in this book. One thing that struck me as I was reading this about Jennifer Doudna's early life, she grew up in Hawaii, and was fascinated with science from an early age. And if you can believe it, her high school guidance counselor told her she should not think about going into science because girls don't become scientists. And now she just won the Nobel Prize. Okay.
Well, I'll never win the Nobel Prize, but I am a scientist.
Yeah. And another thing that she worked on also was actually COVID, was working on the vaccines. So the book is very timely, as well as a good read. I know it sounds like it might be slow going because it's nonfiction and it has to do with science, but believe me, it's very worth reading. So I'm reading a lot of nonfiction right now. So I hope some of you enjoy nonfiction as much as I do. Another one I recently finished is called The Woman Who Smashed Codes, C-O-D-E-S. And the author's Jason Fagone. So this is about a woman, Elizabeth Smith Friedman, and her husband, who not only during World War I, but during World War II as well, were very instrumental in discovering the codes that the Germans were using and the Japanese were using. And so they helped immeasurably in the war effort. And yet, have we heard of these people? Her husband got a lot more publicity after World War II, but she, even though she did a tremendous amount of this herself, did not receive as much publicity. And I found it to be just fascinating. Again, this is a book where sometimes, as with the book about the CRISPR and the science of genetics, I didn't always understand everything involved in the code breaking activities. I still so much appreciated what these people did and how much they gave of themselves and gave up of their own time and their own lives in order to do the things that they did. And Elizabeth, as well as working on codes during the 2 world wars, she also was employed working with the Coast Guard in between the wars, because this was the time of Prohibition. And they were trying to catch these ships that were full of bottles of liquor. And the smugglers used coded messages. So, that was something that she was also very much involved in. And that was one that, again, I found to be very worth reading. And, I love these books that give me an insight into something that I had never thought about much before or heard very much about before.
That reminds me of like Radium Girls. When I read Radium
Yes, that was
Girls,
good.
I was really, I rew radium was bad and that people licked their paintbrush, but it was you got a real deep understanding of the topic.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. And another one that I am currently reading is called The Light of Days, and the author is Judy Battalion. This is another story about women who did not get as much fame or credit for what they did as they could have. It's the story of women resistance fighters in Poland, Jewish resistance fighters. And it says on the cover that it's women, but in fact, most of them were young girls. They were teenagers. And they did incredible things. People do not realize it wasn't just the Warsaw Ghetto uprising. In a lot of other cities, a lot of other communities, the young people in particular were fighting back against the Germans. And this one I also thought was extremely worth reading. I think there was a theme here in my books that I've recommended so far, that they've been about women who, were not always recognized for how much they have done.
And Margaret, is The Light of Days in the library, in our library?
It is. I'm currently reading it, but it
Okay.
will be. The Woman Who Smashed Codes is also in our library because the husband, William Friedman, was a Jewish man, although Elizabeth herself was not, but so I read that one and then I donated to our library. What I like to do is if I read books that have Jewish content or by Jewish authors, which I do all the time, and if I think that they are worth adding to our collection, I will then donate them to our library. And if you come into the library and you want to check something out, the newer ones I usually have kind of facing out on the shelves. If you look around, especially in the area where the desk is, there are some shelves up against the back wall, and you'll see them facing out. And then if you want to check them out, on the inside of the book, I'm going to hold it up. You'll find a card where you can write your name and the date, and then just leave the card on the desk in there. If you don't find a card in there, just for some reason there's no card, just write me a note, that you checked the book out. And I would encourage you to come in. we have not just nonfiction, but lots of fiction as well. And children's books, if you want to ever come in and take a look, you know, for your grandkids maybe, at our children's collection. We have a wonderful kids collection as well. And the one I'm looking forward to reading now is the Hidden Palace, the sequel to The Golem and the Genie.
Okay, I think everybody went now. Oh, Leah, what you reading, Leah?
Thanks, Vanessa. I was worried you were going to skip me and move me off.
No.
First of all, I don't think I know everybody here, so I just want to quickly introduce myself. I'm Leah. I'm the Director of Communications and Engagement at Macomb. And if you ever have any issues with getting on your account on the website or any problems with registering for anything, issues making your community commitment, I'd be so thrilled to help you with that. So you could just email me or call me at the office. Vanessa has my email if you need it. And I know that you know how to get in touch with Vanessa. So in terms of what I'm reading lately, I feel like in the past year or so, my reading habits have changed a little bit, and I've found it to be a little more difficult to take on books that are a little bit more, I don't know, either longer or darker or more difficult, just because I feel like it's harder for me to confront these issues in my literature at night when I usually read for a few minutes before bed. So I've definitely switched to lighter reading. So I have a few different things that I'd like to recommend. The first is I love to bake and cook, and I know that this is not fiction in the traditional sense. It's not fiction, but I recently took up the cookbook Jewish by Jake Cohen from the library. And even if you're not a baker or a cook, that he writes like little mini essays and stories before every recipe. And it's just such a delight to read. It's such a night, and he's just such a doll. So if you like to bake and cook at all, or even if you don't, it's just a great cookbook. I recently read, there you go, Jewish, that's right. I live in Skokie, so I'm a member of the Skokie Public Library, and they're wonderful. They have like tons of cookbooks and all the books. So I recently read the series, the Shadow and Bone series by Lee Bardugo. Lee Bardugo is an Israeli-American author, and this is more like a young adult fiction fantasy series. And you could really tell, like I've read some fantasy series that are more, have more adult themes, and this is a little bit more young adultish. Like you can tell the characters aren't as well developed, but I still enjoyed it. It was interesting. It's 3 books. They've recently turned it.
I've heard of that one. I've heard of that one.
Yeah, didn't they, isn't this a series on one of the channels now?
Yeah, I think
Yes.
there's a television series, but I had no idea they were Israeli. So now I'm even
Yes,
more.
Now you're
Start on that.
interested.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that I don't know if it's on Netflix or HBO, but it was recently turned into a series.
I think Netflix.
Yeah, it was
Mhm.
really, it's really interesting. if any of you.
What is it called? What is it called?
Shadow and Bone.
Shadow and Bone.
Yes, so it's a trilogy. The characters,
Thank you.
it's interesting. The characters are darker than a lot of other fantasy trilogies that I've read, which is interesting because it's a young adult series and they're not as well developed, but they are darker. I'd be interested in hearing about it if any of you read it and discuss it.
Okay, yeah. I'll try and do it.
Another book that I recently read that I found to be transformative was a nonfiction book called Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg. I loved that book so much, and I've read a lot of different kind of productivity and habit books, and this is really the only one that I have thought about and has really kind of affected my day-to-day productivity and what I do. So I would highly recommend it. I really enjoyed it. I took out the book Troubled Blood from the library by Robert Galbraith, which I later found out was a pseudonym for J.K. Rowling. It looked kind of interesting. It was a murder mystery, but I just could not get through it. I had to put it down. It was like a brick. It was so long. And it was all about this detective who's like a cranky British detective. And I was like, been there, done that. We don't need another cranky British detective. So I stopped reading it. So, and then, like many of you, I started reading Anxious People. It is still on my nightstand. I'm about halfway through, but I haven't really made it through the entire book yet. So at some point, I might finish it. Oh, and I've got one more just for some really light summer reading. It was just such a little bit of like dessert reading, you know. I read the book The Switch by Beth O'Leary. And I really enjoyed it. It was like a sweet book. It wasn't so long. It was about a grandmother and a granddaughter, and they live their lives in England and how they switch places for summer and how that transformed each of their experiences, and about them finding love and life and all that stuff. It was a really delightful read. So those are my recommendations.
Okay. Oh wait, I was going to share. Yeah, I have The Switch on my to read list. It looks really sweet. Okay, Sandy, go ahead. You need to unmute.
A book that I'm reading now that I think is very good, and especially for people, seniors might be interested. It's called The Tunnel, and it's by A.B. Yehoshua, Israeli writer. It's translated, and it's very interesting. It deals, I hate to give it away, but with people who are afraid of getting, what's the word?
Alzheimer's.
Yeah. But they don't call it Alzheimer's in the book. They call it
Dementia, maybe.
dementia. Yeah. And, you know, the husband and wife have been married a long time. She's hesitant to use the right word, but it's very interesting because
He's a good
it goes
writer.
over
He
his
really
life.
is.
Yeah. And it's written with some humor too.
Yeah.
So it's called The Tunnel.
Okay, I'm gonna get that one. That sounds interesting.
Yeah. Anything else, Sandy?
No, I've been reading books that you've been suggesting, and I really love the one about Amsterdam.
House on Endless Water.
House on Endless Water.
Yes.
I read that one, and that was really good.
Yes, I passed that on to a few other people too. Thank you, Vanessa.
Okay, so now I'm up. Good. We're rounding up the hour here. So I've been sharing my screen, and I keep track of my books on Goodreads. And I have found that if I don't, I once looked at a book and I assigned it for book club, and I started reading it, and I was like, this seems so familiar.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I had read it already. So I try to keep everything so I can go back and look. Also, I have some friends who run book groups, and they use Goodreads, and I can see what they like. Although sometimes I have to tell myself I shouldn't be, what's the word, prejudiced by what they think. So I am in an Asian world. I just finished Lisa C's The Tea Girl on Hummingbird Lane. That was fabulous.
Yeah.
I'm almost done with Pachinko. Yeah. And I'm looking, for some new books for next year for us to read. And again, and I've said this a million times, I loved House on Endless Waters. I try not to do too many Holocaust books, but there are more and more fiction books and nonfiction books about the Holocaust. And it's very hard to find Jewish books from different ages. And that's one reason I love the Florence Adler Swims Forever book, because it's, it's just different. It's America at a different time and just takes you out of the world. That I also like House on Endless Waters because some of it was set in present times.
Yeah.
And it has a great twist at the end. So,
What's that called? The House on Endless Waters?
yes,
House on Endless Waters.
and it's by, I'm going to put it in the chat. It's, the Ice Cream Queen. Yes, we
Oh,
had
yeah,
that.
that was good. That was good.
And House on Endless Waters is by Emunah Alone, and it's translated. Sandy, do you ever read books in Hebrew?
No, I speak Hebrew, but my reading would be slow. Another thing I'd like to suggest, that when you pick books for our book club, if you could try to get ones that come out in large print. A lot of us really are finding it difficult to read books unless they're in large print.
Right. And I also would say, I listen to a lot of books. I don't know, Sandy, if you listen to Audible.
I don't care for it.
Okay.
Like to hold the book.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Audible either.
Really?
Yeah, no, I'm a super fast reader. So when I'm listening to Audible, it's like, oh, why is it taking them so long?
Right.
I mean, I usually read about a book a week. I'm really
Oh my God.
fast.
All right.
That's
So here,
pretty much how I am.
here is my Audible hint for you. I have the reader read at 1.25
Okay.
because, and I remember Stephen Colbert teasing Barack Obama that they'd have to speed up his to 2.0 because he speaks so slowly. And I think he's the narrator. But if you speed it up a little bit, it helps. Otherwise, Elaine, you're absolutely right. It just drags.
Yeah.
Drags. And I'm gonna share my screen in 1 second here so I can show you. So I also read a lot of young adult books, especially I'm getting ready to go to camp, but I have different shelves.
Yeah, I like to too.
35 on the Holocaust, 39 on the Israel. Let's just see what I have on Jewish. And I think some of these are double counted. We just read A Bend in the Stars, House on Endless Waters. I don't know why Colson Whitehead is there. And Nobody Will Tell You This But Me by Bess Kalb. That was a fun book. It's a tribute to the writer's grandma, and she took her voice messages and fashioned it into a book. And I really enjoyed that. I love all the Alice Hoffman books. And I like Meg Wolitzer. She also did The Interests, right, Margaret?
Yes, that was such a good book.
That was a great book, but again,
Yeah.
long.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. We enjoyed the Book of V this year.
Yeah.
So
That was interesting.
it was interesting. Now let's see if I want. I know that there's some other new books coming out. Elaine, yes, Thorns and Roses. I've read the first two.
Yeah, I really like that one. Especially right now with all the heavy deal going on with the COVID and all of this. It's really fun to just read a good world building fairy book.
A young adult one I liked a lot that I read a couple of years ago. It's called Spinning Silver. And it has a Jewish thing.
Yes.
Because one of the main characters is Jewish. Spinning Silver.
I love that one. Vanessa recommended it to me. It was great. That
And
was
it's in the library.
It's in the library.
Right.
She's written
It's in the young adult
several
section.
in that
Young
same
adult.
vein.
Yeah.
The other one in that vein is Sisters of the Winter Wood.
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't-
that was good.
That's
Yeah, that was
also good. It's also young adult-ish, fantasy,
Yeah.
and Jewish,
Mhm.
but definitely fantasy because humans turn into animals. and vice versa.
Yeah.
All right, so here, I also, I certainly look at the Jewish Book Council. Sometimes I like their picks, sometimes I don't. Have you heard, Margaret, anything about the nesting dolls?
No, I
Oh,
haven't.
I read it. I read it. It was
And
fabulous.
it was
I thought it
fabulous.
was terrific. Yes.
Okay.
It has to do with generation from generation to generation. Somebody bought it.
Uh-huh.
for me. Yes,
Okay.
I have it. It's excellent.
Um,
Really excellent.
Beyond the Ghetto Gates. I haven't heard of any. Well, I'll tell you the ones
I
I've
haven't
heard.
read that one, no.
The Lost Shtetl we read.
I read
I
that one.
really enjoyed that.
It was really good, yeah.
Yeah. And the best Cal book is nonfiction. The Interpreter. I haven't. Margaret, have you heard anything about
I
that?
haven't read that one. I haven't read it.
Yeah. Home is a Stranger. So over the summer, I take some time and I look at these different books and see
Yeah.
what. But when I hear that you like the nesting dolls, that's going to make me.
Yes. It was excellent because it took generation to generation from
Mhm.
Siberia, Russia. They were banned to
Yeah.
Siberia and
Right.
then went back. It's fascinating.
Mhm.
To Be a Man is short stories, and I'm looking at that for our Wednesday morning group.
Right.
And
Exile Music. I read
Yeah.
that one. That was good. Yeah, I like that one.
okay.
It starts out, people escape from the Holocaust and they come to South America. La Paz, I think, is where they are settled. And it's really a very good book, really well written. And yeah, I like that one a lot. Exile Music.
All right. I'm on that. Let's see if I
Yeah.
keep going here. I really like the guest book.
Yeah, I did too.
That was good. Mhm.
Yeah.
Like that.
It's just because again, it's a different time period. And so it allows you to kind of immerse yourself in that.
Yes. Oh, The 10th Muse. I see that one. That was excellent.
Okay.
That's fiction, and the themes in this book are family secrets.
Oh, that was great.
Families that have people who are biracial. Feminism.
Okay.
And it does have something to do with the Holocaust, but it's not what I would call a Holocaust book precisely.
Right.
So yeah, that one is, and it has, one of the characters is Chinese, part Chinese. So yeah.
All right. That sounds good. All
Yeah,
right.
it's very good. Yeah.
I'm getting my summer. I read On Division.
I read that too. I read it.
And I think we read it for the book club. It was a hard book.
It was hard. Yeah. That was hard to read.
Did you read Lake on Fire?
I read
Yes.
that.
Yes, I
And-
did.
Did you like it, Brenda?
Yeah.
I liked it. It was recommended as one book everybody should read by the Wilmette Public Library when it came out.
Right. I thought it was good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was, yeah, that was good. Mhm.
She has a story in the Joyce Antler anthology.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of it. Did you read any of these? Oh, David Bezmoji's Immigrant City. Did you read that, Margaret?
I have, his name is ringing a bell, but I don't
It
think I read,
is.
yeah, Immigrant City.
And
don't know.
I
I'd
think
have to-
I've seen it in our library.
yeah, it might be in our library. Yeah.
He
And I
has
can't
another
recall.
book. He has another book.
I may have read the other one then. Yeah.
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 Nathan
Last
English.
Watchman of Old Cairo, that was good.
Oh, The Last Watchman, we did that in book. That's really great. And
That's excellent.
and it's about the Cairo Geniza and totally different time period. Nothing.
Nothing is forgotten. That's very good. We have that in our library.
What's it
That
about?
has part of it is set in America and part of it is set in the Soviet Union. And it's a love story and it's about family and finding out about things that happened with your family and yeah, it was very good.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. I'm gonna stop my share here and let's see what we've got in the chat. I know. So
Vanessa, my video stopped. I have no idea why.
that's all right. Do you have anything else to say, Izzy?
Well, I had just a suggestion for another topic.
Yeah.
Because people always, I mean, I don't watch television much, but when I do, I like it to be worthwhile. So I get suggestions for like good movies on Netflix or Amazon Prime or something like that, or some series. So I have a whole list of what I recommend to people or what they recommend to me. So
What do you
rather than
Yeah.
wasting your time watching television, something, not so good.
Yeah.
Or watching, so I have a list. That would be interesting to hear what people have to say, a good series or a good, documentary or something like
Right.
that.
We'll have to have a movie roundtable of what people are watching.
Or series or something like
series
that.
or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to suggest.
Well, I want to thank everybody for coming on. We're not doing this monthly, but I think a couple times a year just to see what we're reading, what Margaret's got in the library. And by the way, if you need suggestions for, your kids, you tell her the age. She's a wonderful resource, and we're opening up the building. Just give me a call. The building is open, but not open, and there'll be more. We'll be opening up more as the summer goes along, and you can come and check out a library book. The library is always open. And thank you, everybody. Leah, I'm so glad you were here. Fabulous session, and I'm going to go read. I'm going to go read.
Thanks, everybody. It was great talking to everybody.
Yeah, and good to see everybody.
Yeah.
All
Thank you. This was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you,
Bye.
Vanessa. Thank you so
Bye.
much,
Thank you very much.
everybody.
Bye.
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 Bye.